Hello and welcome to the Pod Awakens. My name is Jordan. With me, as always, on these Ahsoka recaps is Chris and Ron. How are you today, Chris?
Doing fantastic. We have an awesome episode we watched last night. And you know what I did? I was going to rewatch it, and I just ended up seeing all the clips on TikTok. And it's like, I'm just like soaking in all of the glory because it is fantastic television, ladies and
You're
gentlemen.
Ahsoka-ing it in.
You're
Oh, I,
soaking it in. Yeah.
I am soaking it in. It's fantastic. I had so much fun last night. I can't even tell you.
And we have Ron.
But
How are
I'm
you today,
gonna.
Ron?
Very good. I could definitely echo all of Chris's sentiments. It's really cool. It seems like right now Star Wars is more the talk of the town, so to speak, than it's been in a long time, and for good reason. I'm still in. I think it's the best Star Wars I've ever seen territory, and I'm excited to kind of break it all down today with some new theories that have been bouncing around today.
New theories.
Mm.
And I'm fine. Thanks for asking. But anyway, we went.
I guess you could tell us how you're doing, Jordan.
We went live yesterday for the finale. Thanks to everyone who came out and watched, and we had people commenting and sharing their theories. It was a fun time. I put up the immediate reaction, which did very well. So thank you all for listening to that. But we're going to do our more standard recap today where we can kind of, dive into more long form discussions here. But we're talking part 8, The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord, which I love that title. It's written by Dave Filoni, directed by Rick Famuyiwa, and it aired October 3rd, 2023 on Disney+. And the official synopsis was the heroes race to prevent Grand Admiral Thrawn's escape. So just some general stuff real quick, too. There was Deadline putting out something that Season 2 is not yet greenlit, and discussions are happening. I'm not too worried about it, right? Lucasfilm usually has control over whatever they want to do. So that's what it is. I'm sure they couldn't greenlight it beforehand because of the writer strike anyway. There was a rumor going around that it was close to being greenlit during the strikes too. So I'm sure there's some stuff they have to wrap up now that the strikes are done to be able to get that in motion. But I heard their priority right now is to get Mando season 4 off the ground, which was completely written. So once they get these actor strikes done, they're going to start really trying to ramp up on that. Yeah. Okay. So let's dive in.
Hold on, before we dive in, that is kind of interesting. If all of that was written already, I wonder how
they were getting ready to film. They were getting ready to film by later this. It was supposed to be this fall, I think, before the strikes happen.
Just really quick here, how much do you guys think the events of this show are going to play into that then? Because if this, I don't know, because there's going to be a lot of different rewrites and stuff, obviously, for the end of this, unless they just go and recast Baylan Skoll, which we do hope they do. But say they have to go do a bunch of rewrites on Ahsoka, and if they already had this story planned for Mandalorian, thinking Baylan Skoll was going to be in the future plans and all the stuff we're going to get into today with the Mortis gods and stuff, do you think that could potentially change season 4 of Mando?
I mean, I'm the wrong guy to ask because I'm not caught up on.
I was trying to unmute too, by the way. Sorry.
But what I would say is you have to imagine Thrawn is really the big thing there. And I would think they'd save Baylan Skoll for the next Ahsoka season because they really don't need to wrap that up, and they can kick that can down the road.
Yeah, I don't think we would have to worry too much about. Look, Dave and John work pretty hand in hand together, and Rick Famuyiwa directed this episode, and he is now executive producer with them on Mandalorian and stuff. So I would assume that they had this stuff planned out. John wrote probably most of the episodes for Mando season 4. That was the rumor that he was that they were all written, ready to go. I think he talked about it. I don't think it was even a rumor. I think he talked about it in some sort of interview before the strikes happened. So I think at that point they would be. I think Chris is right. Baylan's probably not appearing in Mando season 4. I would assume this is going to focus more. I think they're going to try to get back to Mando season 1 and 2 stuff, where it's focusing on Din and focusing on Grogu and those two. Now that the Mandalore stuff is resolved, I think that from there, you're going to get hints of the Thrawn stuff. You may even see him, but I think we're going to kind of carry more of the state of the galaxy. We might even get some more New Republic stuff again. We might get Carson Teva with Mando again.
Oh, we're getting Carson Teva. If it's a Disney Plus show, you bet your ass we're getting Carson Teva.
You know, guys living the dream, man.
Yeah.
Just being able to play with Star Wars like this. And yeah, so we're probably gonna get stuff through those lenses. And maybe he, you know, because Carson Teva helped out Mando. Maybe Mando has to try to help out Carson Teva. Maybe this is where we get more Zeb, right? And we kind of get that stuff as we start building up to Ahsoka season 2, which is probably what I'm thinking is the last project before this film, right? So what I would think is we're going to get Skeleton Crew, which continues this stuff too. More on a peripheral type of thing, I would think. And then you're going to get probably Mando season 4, Ahsoka season 2, the Dave Filoni film after that.
You know, that is interesting though, because everything we've heard about Skeleton Crew is that it takes place in, you know, it's been what, just deep space is kind of how they put it. Like so what if Skeleton Crew is like directly, you know, kind of tied into, maybe they're the ones that end up finding Ahsoka and all them, and you know what, like there's a lot of possibilities there.
Could be on the other side of it too, like the unknown regions, which is kind of where, you know, when you look at where Palpatine was being resurrected in Exegol and stuff, kind of in that unknown regions, maybe it's more hanging out in that regard. Maybe that's where Thrawn and them are going to hang out after they stop off at Dathomir or something. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Sorry, I didn't mean to take us on such a side tangent there, but that'll be one of the many things that we talk about in the off time between now and the Acolyte.
Yeah, I actually still think Skeleton Crew is supposed to come out first.
Oh, right. I think, we talked about that.
It was originally supposed to be this year. I'm thinking it's just going to be pushed to next year. But yeah, so I think we're set for that to... Oh yeah, everything still says it's expected to be November or December, but I think that's going to get pushed due to the strikes. I think they're going to want content for 2024. So I assume that's probably going to be a little bit later. But there's no Marvel show until Echo in January, and that's all at once. So you could get maybe Skeleton Crew beforehand if you want. Yeah.
Also, just before we get started, I guess we'll let people know that in a few weeks here, we're going to be actually kind of piggybacking off what we did last night with our live stream. We thought that was a lot of fun. Again, we loved the interaction, so we're going to be getting some Star Wars rewatches going in the similar vein of what we did last night. So be on the lookout for that. That is going to be awesome. We're starting with my personal favorite, of course, episode 1, The Phantom Menace. So you can watch with all of us. You can, disagree with everything that I say positive about the movie. You could be smart like me and actually enjoy the movie. Either way, come hang out with us. We'll have a cup of coffee and break this ish down.
Well, we'll have a cup of something.
Yeah, a cup of something.
I'll say this: I'm looking forward to rewatching the prequels because I haven't done it in a very long time, and I don't think I've seen the first. I've rewatched the second and third one. I don't think I've seen the first one since I was a kid. I think I saw it in the theater and maybe once at home, like that. So the first episode 1, I don't think I've seen that one in a while.
Get ready for the cinematic experience of your life.
Okay. All right. I guess let's
10 10 minutes in. Let's go. Let's talk about Ahsoka.
Yeah, let's move on. Talk Ahsoka. So you mentioned, you had some new theories. So I don't think we have to recap the episode specifically. I think we can kind of just run free, talk about the whole season, talk about ideas. So, yeah, what's the number one theory you have going into whatever's next?
Yeah, let's jump kind of right in here. Just full disclosure, this is not my theory at all. It actually involves a character that I'm not all that familiar with, aside from like little things I've learned from like TikTok and stuff like that. People who've kind of brought this character to my periphery before this take that I heard. Is it possible that the one that's calling Baylan's skull is Abeloth? So again, I'm not too familiar with her. I know she is bad news, and I know that she's got some kind of deep seated connection with the Force and all that. But I think you'd probably, as a big Legends guy, would be much more equipped to talk about that theory.
Not really. I'm not too familiar with Abeloth, but it is supposed to be the mother, right? Is kind of what she's supposed to be. And we have the father, we have the son, we have the daughter, which is represented in Mortis. We had them in the statues. We had all of them represented here because, like I said, we had the two statues. The daughter's head was off, but we did have the Morai, the owl, that does represent the daughter as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think that could possibly be what we're heading to, is kind of getting more depth with these Mortis, almost godlike, right? Creatures, religion-esque. So she usually, it says, like, throughout her life, she became the mother. She kept the peace between the father's warring son and daughter and became a loving member of the family. But apparently she was mortal, and she grew old while the father and the children lived on. So maybe you get a replacement of Abeloth, because Abeloth's mortal, right? I mean, I don't know, it could be anything like that, I guess, but
because she doesn't look very mortal in the pictures I've seen. I don't know if you could, how much of a pain it would be to flash one up on the screen here. But Chris, when you see this, she is very bad news, and it looks very akin to the kind of vibe we got from last night's episode with the horror and like sort of go on that scary Star Wars route. Like
I want that scary Star Wars zombie good stuff. I'm like, yeah, let's have some stormtroopers eating some brains here. Let's, I'm all about it. I think that's fantastic. And like, you don't have swords, you got lightsabers. Zombies with lightsabers. It's a whole new ballgame.
That's like Dave Filoni was just sitting in his basement, enjoying a funny cigarette, and was just like, "Man, I want to see zombies and lightsabers, man." Obviously, there is what's the word I'm looking for it? Like it's happened before, like in the Legends lore, but just something that on the surface and out of context, if you hear without knowing, it's just like, what has Star Wars become? You know what I mean?
Well, I'm a big believer that Star Wars should never be conventional television. It should never be.
Is this the picture you found?
Yep.
Holy no, oh god.
Yeah, I don't know who drew this, but
someone with very bad dreams.
This is the Wikipedia one.
Psychopathy.
This is the Wikipedia.
Fuck, evil ditto.
Yeah.
Oh, he's gonna make a clone of Ron. We're all in trouble.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. I think you do run the risk of losing some people, right, with that kind of stuff. But I think if it's presented a certain way, it'll be more acceptable, right? Like, I think if you break stuff down for people, I like the idea more of that these are not real people, right? Like the Mortis people, Mortis actually didn't even happen, right? Like they wake up on the ship later and they're like,
Yeah.
the clones are like, nothing even happened.
Yeah. Commander, what happened?
It was like a shared force vision, and I
Yeah.
like it more as like a concept like that than if like they're actually going to introduce these people as like real beings or
I mean,
whatever.
they have massive statues made of them, though. You'd have to think
Yeah, we have
actually.
statues of Jesus and like God and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, Jesus was real, but I mean like God and stuff, right? Like,
Not even going there.
I'm just saying, like, you know, people make statues of like the Egyptian gods even and the Roman gods and stuff.
That's
So
true.
it could
True.
be that whoever was there, right, had these ideas of their religion. This is like the original, maybe the original Force religion type of thing. Along because like the Night Sisters are from there. We have the statues of the, you know, the father and the son and the daughter that I think our characters will kind of represent maybe those sides, right? Maybe a bit more, and it won't be like a one-on-one, like I am meeting Abeloth or I
Yeah.
am meeting the son and stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, that could be. Although I will say that statue of the sun looked an awful lot like Mr. Sam Witwer. Just, you know.
I kind of see it, but I don't know. I think
What kind of voice is he gonna put on that?
he kind of just looks like what his
can do
animated
any
form
voice.
looked like.
Sam Witwer is a voice god. He could do any voice.
Mm-hmm. You know what he's most famous for, right? Is
Who's
playing
Darth Maul?
no, Doomsday
Uh,
in Smallville is his most notable role.
Sure, Jordan.
That is what I know him from. Like the first time I saw him was on Smallville when I was watching that. So then every time I saw him appear somewhere else, I'd be like, "Oh, it's Doomsday from Smallville." And then now I kind of associate him more with Star Wars, right? Because he's done Darth Maul, he's done Star Killer, and all that kind of stuff. But originally, it was always I go back to that, you know, to that original spot where I know him from.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I saw that kind of made me question stuff, right? So we were all high on it yesterday, and then I'm like, oh, let me try to find other people talking about it, and that was a mistake.
Usually is. It's not the internet's motto.
But I saw so many people say like it's disappointing. There was no answers for anything, and I really want to know what answers are we looking for, right? Because most of the plot for this season was completely wrapped up. The first questions we had were, where's Ezra? Where's Thrawn? We answered those halfway through the series, and then Thrawn returned. Ezra was able to get back home.
Somehow.
Right. Somehow Thrawn returned. That's what Mon Mothma was going to say at the beginning of season 2. But
shocked is all get out.
I don't understand what other big questions there were. Now, obviously the questions we have at the end of the episode, I get, right? Like, okay, Baylan is doing this thing. Shin is going with but those are obviously setting pieces up to continue the story, which I feel like any finale should do, right? Like, when you have, I don't know, this very screams to me is like when like Lost was on and like the first season and not everything was solved. I'm like, well, obviously, because they want you to watch season 2. Like, you have to have some stuff to draw you back. And I don't expect any show to fully wrap up every single thing because then there's no thread, right? To go on for the next season.
Yeah. Dude, that's television 101. I mean, like, that was a big part of what always drew me into The Walking Dead. Like, at the end of every season, it was like, oh, God, but here's this, like, prison, and what's the deal with that? Oh, no, the governor's still out there. It's like they would solve enough to make you feel satisfied, but you have to, drum up intrigue for the next season. If we knew, like, first of all, if we knew, like, if they wrapped up the whole Baylan thing in this episode, it would have been way too rushed, way forced, and like, then what do you do? Like, yeah, it just it blows my mind when people go that route. It's just people looking for a reason to complain. Like,
Well,
it's
yeah.
no, you're good. What were you gonna
It just it upsets me that people are acting like because he died they should wrap it up when they didn't know that was going to happen. He
How
was
are they gonna? How? Yeah, no, I know you're not
and
saying this, but how are they
Yeah,
gonna
yeah.
wrap it up? He was
right,
dead. What were they?
right.
Like, what were they gonna do?
And the other thing about it is, I just wish we'd stop whining because it takes away from Ray Stevenson's incredible performance, and he should be remembered for all his credits that act as an actor, but especially the way he goes out here. And I was like, crap, I need to watch all his IMDb stuff because this is a compelling actor who did a great job.
Emmy
And I just
performance easily.
and when you complain about that storyline, you're picking at him, in my opinion, and it doesn't make any sense because the character was awesome, the actor delivered it, and now you're just gonna have to recast it to get that story. I'm sorry, it's uncomfortable that you have to recast someone, but let's not act like we have not done this before with other media.
What I would say is, right, like, obviously people might go back to when we were talking about it before the finale, and we all kind of said, yeah, we hope they wrap it up because we don't want that to happen. But that was us saying, like, we hope they wrote it as a complete story for him and
Mm.
not like, we don't obviously expect them to just somehow wrap it up when there was a writer strike going on and an actor strike going on and he passed. Like, there was no way to do that. So if they have something really big planned, there's three options. There's recast, there
I
is
vote for it.
drop it completely, and then there is Shin going to look for him and then taking up his mission, right? Like, I think those are the three options. And I think the one that would probably work the best is recasting, but you have to find somebody that can really bring what Ray Stevenson brought. And I know some people say nobody could, but we've seen actors work their magic before. Somebody definitely can bring that type of level of respect and stuff. You can literally cast a Game of Thrones actor probably, and
Yeah,
uh,
dude.
I was thinking more like Jorah and not not Ned
Yeah,
Stark though. Jorah could work, I think.
yeah, Jorah would be great. Khaleesi.
Yeah, there you go. But I think there's there's levels of actors that can come in and definitely knock it out of the park. And yes, it'd be unfortunate, but I don't really want a whole plot line that seems to be deep, really hinting at deep mythological Star Wars Force lore to be dropped because of that. So it
Things
seems
that are
like Dave had
probably
a big idea
crucial. Things that are probably crucial
to
to
what he has
this
planned.
whole arc that they're planning. Like, you have to. You have to. It's very unfortunate. And like, if as incredible and Emmy worthy as this performance was, if we were talking about like one of the legacy, like really like a Luke or somebody like that, maybe the conversation would be a little different. But it's like it's it's not a situation like that, or like with Chadwick Boseman, how that was, where he was just like so ingrained in like, again, I'm trying to like tiptoe around it because I don't want to trivialize Ray Stevenson's impact and when
But
everything
it's
he
not
able to.
trivializing it. It's not trivializing it at all. It's being realistic to the situation.
Yeah,
There are very few characters who are irreplaceable. Chadwick Boseman was a status symbol. He was a icon to Black America. That was an icon. He did something. He crossed a barrier. Ray Stevenson just had a great acting performance,
mm-hmm.
and it's completely different. You cannot replace some people. It's fine. But Star Wars is going to be in an uncomfortable position because they're probably going to have to recast everyone at some point. Because I mean, it's one story and it keeps going. And I don't know that you want to CGI Mark Hamill after he's gone.
That's what
We
I was
saw how
gonna
that
say.
went with the Flash and Christopher Reeve being digitally put in, and George Reeve being put in. It's just, and you have a lot of anger about that. Well, you know what? Mark Hamill's fine with you CGI and him fine. That's great until it's not. Until that doesn't work, everyone's going to have to be recast. So I think you just have to have some flexibility as a viewer that he's going to look different
I
and
don't
his
know if
voice might be
everyone
different.
has to be recast, because I do think we can get to a point where we can leave characters like Luke and Leia in the past. That's why it's really crucial for some of these other characters to really start taking over the load. There will be a time where we have to kind of either move on from the episodes 3 through 6 eras where these characters can kind of show up, or they just don't show up, right? Like at a certain point, those characters will stop showing up. I think they're not going to be comfortable recasting Luke and Leia because of what happened with Solo, which is a total misread of the situation, I think. But that's what they determined, is that, oh, it wasn't Harrison Ford. Guess what? Indy didn't do that well with Harrison Ford. So it's not just that, right? It's that people were not interested. It came out like 6 months after The Last Jedi, which is like a really short time.
And right after, what was it, Infinity War or Endgame?
Right after Infinity War, yeah.
Like, dude, come on. Like, yeah.
So this is why
that didn't do well.
But it came out my wedding weekend. I still made a chance to go see it. I still went and saw Solo.
I mean, you've got a great wife. That's all I can say to that one.
That too.
That's marriage material if I've ever seen it. She's okay with that. Cool. I think we have to get to a point where we judge things by quality and we don't judge things by how they were received. Because I feel like when we rewatch the prequels, we're going to be like, there's things about this that were a lot better than anyone gave it credit and would not be mentioned in any of the reviews at the time, or and the prequels have a glow of them that they never had before. So like I'm at this point where Star Wars, where I'm open to any interpretation of anything, because look, I'm seeing Star Wars in a different light right now.
Here's the thing, too, right? Is people don't understand how much their nostalgia is playing on them, right? There were people that panned A New Hope, right? But for a lot of people that were kids, when they saw it, they fell in love with it, right? It became culturally significant. Like we just said offline, there's people that don't like Return of the Jedi, but there are some people that's their favorite movie because they were maybe even younger than the people that don't like it, and they have the nostalgia for it. And then there's people like us that grew up with the prequels that look back at them fondly because it reminds us of when we were 10 years old, getting drawn into this world. And then there are going to be the people that grow up with the sequels. Look, if you were 8 years old when, let's say 10 years old, if you were 10 years old when Force Awakens came out, you are almost 20 years old.
Oh my God.
2 years from now is going to be 10 years from The Force Awakens.
Stop
Jesus
it.
Christmas.
So I had a coworker, 19 years old, coworker say, "What, you never watched Minions when you were a kid?" And I was like,
"No, Minions
kid?
came out when I was a grown adult."
I was like, a kid? I was like, a kid? I was freaking watching Lion King. I was watching Lion King. You're like,
Rugrats.
Minions? Yeah. The old TMNT commercial is cartoon. I was like, are you kidding? I was like, my mind still has not recovered.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about how quick it's gone for me, right? But it's like, for some people that was their whole life. They've grown up for 8 years watching The Force Awakens or whatever, and for some of them that's going to be their movies. And there are already kids that are like that. That are like, Rey is their favorite, or Poe, Finn. And then they're going to look back at those movies. which is why it's going to be perfect when the Rey movie comes out, because it's going to be at the time where they're 20 years old or something, and they're going to go, watch the movie and be able to have money to spend and buy merch, and it's a cycle. It's a cycle.
I don't think there's a trilogy that I haven't had fun with. Like, I think I had a blast with this sequel trilogy because I love A New Hope, and A Force Awakens is so mirroring of A New Hope that it's kind of a beautiful, hey, this is the next generation of Star Wars. And The Last Jedi might be my favorite Star Wars film other than Rogue One because it is an interesting deep dive. It is a take. It is compelling. Like, and it puts me on the edge of my seat. And I still love when Luke is taunting Kylo Ren with the Force Mirage. Dude, one of the coolest things in Star Wars ever. So I mean, there's not a trilogy. There's not a Star Wars trilogy of the movies that I haven't had some fun with. And again, the prequels. I was a kid, and I remember when Episode 3 came out. That scene with that molten lava and only a Sith deals in absolutes.
On Mustafar.
You know what's crazy is that the spoiler culture was so different back then. Like the novelization came out months before the movie. I was reading the Star Wars novelization for Revenge of the Sith in my class, and I was like ahead of time. So I already knew everything going in this movie. The book was actually a little better. And I'll say that because I was really excited for the Palpatine fight with Mace, and Kit Fisto goes in there, Eth Koth, like they're all going in there, and they get taken down in like 2 seconds. It's a little bit more drawn out in the book. And there's a part when Anakin's running in there. It's like on the Palpatine's desk is like Kit Fisto's head just like severed on the desk.
Oh, shoot.
That scene stuck with me when I read that book. And then I was seeing the movie and I was like, oh no, they died like nothing.
Help me, Anakin!
Yeah, exactly.
I think the prequels suffered. I think the prequels suffered from having to sell toys to kids. And I think that it had to be a four.
He always did that.
No, but it had to be a 4-quadrant film that got you in, got you out. It had to appeal to be so broad in general.
But none of that's true though, Chris. Because like what I'll say is like George.
But that's how they thought of it.
But no, like the studio had no say. It was all George. George
just
has 20th Century Fox only had distribution, so there was no like studio mandate of like we have to sell toys, or I mean. There was kind of for George because he owned the toy rights. So, I mean, he makes billions off of that. But, like he wasn't caring about 4-quadrant film or anything. He was making it for himself at that point. And
all right, that's fair. Let's
get back to Ahsoka, though, by the way.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Little tangent there as we're...
What's that tangent for?
It's more of a wrap. Like I said, we did our main instant reaction. Yeah. This is more of just kind of like an open forum, kind of the last.
So Morgan Elsbeth's sword, sword was so freaking cool. And when Ahsoka slices her in half, it's just like that was one of those. It was almost it happened too fast. It was like, oh shit. Like the gravity of the situation almost didn't land because there's so much going on, and it happened really quick in the fight, in my opinion. But it was such a good fight. I thought the choreography was fantastic. I know there was that scene where Ahsoka, seemed a little slower with the lightsaber, and we were talking about that last night. But I really loved a lot of the choreography and the fighting in this.
Yeah, I think it was just whatever they were directing for her of because I know we talked about it on the live stream, but we didn't talk about it on the episode, so I figure we can talk about it here. Yeah, I think it was just the way that they had her blocking made it look like so methodical and just kind of like so easy for her. So it kind of looked fake at times just because she was like doing it by like, because it looked
was
easy.
Like so smooth and like fluid.
Yeah,
it was like,
Mm-hmm.
And almost a little
sense.
slow too. Like, usually we're used to seeing like the blasters be really fast and like blocking like this in the prequels, but it was a little bit more slow, methodical stuff, which made it look a little weird. But then she absolutely killed it with the Elsbeth fight. So,
Yeah. That whole and it was cool seeing the Blade of Talzin again, like just another Clone Wars flashback for us nerds at the end. It's like, and even like Chris, you didn't know what that was, but you were just like, dude, this is dope.
I was like, yes. Well, it kind of reminded me of Legends of Tomorrow and the Hell Weapons, and like it even had the green ting to them. So I was like, I I didn't say this in the show because I knew it was like the wrong place, but I was like, that's a hell weapon.
Yeah, no, it was very, very cool, and it was very also in line just with, we've heard a lot about how Dave Filoni kind of always viewed Ahsoka as like the last samurai type of deal, and there's always been such heavy influence from that kind of I don't want to say culture, but you know what I'm saying. There's always been a lot of heavy sort of samurai influence with Ahsoka, and especially in this series. So that just inserting the Blade of Talzin into this was just very kind of on brand with what we'd seen so far, and it fit really awesome.
Yeah, no, that was really, really great. But like you said, yeah, that influence goes just like Dave has really followed on it, but I mean, really, it's been there since
It's
the
all
beginning. Yeah,
for sure.
But that's what that's what's so awesome. Like Dave just follows. Like he really is George's apprentice. He is the one that is able to follow through with that stuff. And like we mentioned before, when we're talking about maybe deep force stuff coming up, it's I trust no one more than Dave when it comes to making changes with the Force or any sort of lore that we know with the Force. I know some people are a little upset that Sabine was so proficient with the Force after that, but after she called the blade to her. But the way I look at it is that she was very just confident in her abilities after the lightsaber actually came to her. And two, she's been training for years, right? Like we don't know how long she trained under Ahsoka.
That was her breakthrough. That was her breakthrough, that she got over the hurdle that she couldn't get over.
It's not like she just started training last week. Like she was training with Ahsoka. At one point she left. She tried to keep up with her training, she said to Ahsoka this episode. And then she finally, once she had the breakthrough, she said she felt confident enough to say, I can do this. I don't have a problem with that the way some people have.
I think Hu Yang would even be proud.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely he would. Hu Yang, let's talk about that. He had a great scene that we didn't really get to talk about with Ezra building his new lightsaber. And it feels like just at this moment is when he finds out that Kanan was Ezra's master, maybe? I mean, like, which is interesting because he knows Hera and he knows Jason, and he was telling Jason about Kanan. So it's like he has that connection, but I guess he didn't know much about Ezra's past. But
it did throw me off a little bit too. I was like, huh? But then the moment itself was so great that I got lost again, and seeing Kanan's, not exactly Kanan's lightsaber, obviously, but just kind of like the
emitter.
version.
The emitter is like the twin, right?
It's Kanan's emitter. Yeah. Not literally.
I think they needed some exposition. I think they needed a little exposition in the scene. I think they needed exposition. For me, who has not seen Rebels, it was very helpful.
Yeah, no, that's understandable.
I want to clear up something too. For somebody like Chris if you haven't seen Rebels, they call him by two names. They say Caleb and they say Kanan, and the reason why is because he was Caleb Doom, and as a Jedi, and then when Order 66 happened and he went into hiding, he started going by Kanan, so that way nobody would know that he was a Jedi.
He really wanted to make it as different as possible from his original name, too.
Yeah, Kanan Jarrus instead of Caleb Dune. Yeah.
It's not quite Ben Kenobi, but...
It's like if you heard somebody say it wrong, you could still... Or like you heard somebody say it quick, Kanan, Caleb. Like, it's
yeah, true. But yeah, he was a little smarter than Obi-Wan, where Instead of just going by Ben Kenobi, and you're like, huh, I wonder if there's any relation.
Yeah.
There's totally different names.
There's a million Kenobis on Tatooine. He's fine.
Yeah, like he could have been like Ben Ken or something.
Luke, who had no idea who Obi-Wan is, was like, oh, you think he means Ben Kenobi? If that happened with Kanan, you'd be like, Caleb? No, sorry. I know a Kanan, but that's not even close, man. It's kind of like when, you know what that reminds me of? It was kind of like when people be like, do you know Joe from like Westminster High? And you're like, no, but I know a Jim. And you're like, that's not what I asked.
Yeah. It's like, I don't care if you know a Jim. I'm asking if you know Joe.
But it's like, I always think it's funny. Like, people don't know what to say usually to that. If you're like, you know, like if I was in, like, if I say where I go to school is, where I went to school, some people would be like, oh, do you know this person? And I'm like, no.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, And they're like, well, what about this guy? And I'm like, no, I don't. Like, can we just stop the conversation here at this point? Like,
yeah,
you know, like
if you say you're from a city,
give me another
and
5
like,
names.
Do you know this person? I'll be like, please Google the population size of the city.
Yeah, like I know my town was small, but dang,
I have to go. I have this dagger, and I have to go line it up to some Death Star ruins. So I'll see you guys.
Right.
But Caleb, so that's why he says like Caleb in there. If he even called it, I think he only said it once. Huyang said Caleb, but this was great seeing to kind of also show again to people how old Huyang is, right? He remembers like every single lightsaber. He has all the records. He's trained every single person that's made a lightsaber. So it is, and it was just funny too when, you know, he's judging Ezra and he's like, who even taught you how to make that? He said, Kanan. And he's like, well, I taught Kanan how to do that, you know? So just
egg on his face a little bit. Yeah.
I never thought we'd see Ezra and like Huyang interact like this. And it's great to see these characters who have been part of different mediums, you know, kind of intersecting, and hopefully people that haven't watched are starting to love some of these characters as well, because I really dig these.
I mean, I kind of like Huyang and Ezra. I like both of those characters, and I didn't have a connection to him. I don't know Ezra enough to like say I love him as a character, but I'm all about the turtle people, and he was friends with the turtle people, so he's got some sway with me.
One day we'll get a tag team match: Huyang and Chopper versus R2 and C-3PO.
Ooh.
Oh man, the fact that Chopper, like a dog, knew it was Ezra too.
Yeah,
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
How have they not had a droid fighting game? Like, you set up a fighting game. It's like R2 versus BB-8. And you're just like,
most droids are not like homicidal maniacs like Chopper is. So I mean, for most droids, a fighting game is not gonna register for a lot of fans. But Chopper would win that.
Around. Chopper's like,
Chopper would win every battle.
I just think it'd be like a silly little like. I think it'd be a silly little arcade game, you know. I don't think you could get like PlayStation 5 with it.
What was that show? BattleBots that used to be on TV or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Oh, good times.
I'm trying to think of any other big things. Did you have any other theories that you said? You said you maybe had multiple theories that were coming out.
So the Abeloth one was the big one. Trying to on the spot, I can't think of any more actual like legend theories, things in that vein. Something like well, here, let's do this. Chris, as the perspective of somebody who hadn't seen Rebels, like, I know obviously it was a satisfying conclusion for you, but is there anything that you like? Is there any questions that you may have like coming out of this that you know, maybe you think, oh, it's just either something I didn't know because I didn't see Rebels, or is this something that none of us know, like type of thing. Like, is there anything coming from this episode that you like, burning question type of deal?
I have no clue what we're talking about with the father, the mother, the son thing. I have no clue what we're talking about with Mordecai's. I've been afraid to ask. I I'm like, do I even really want to know? Like, yeah, it's crazy stuff. So I
I was gonna say, if you want me to explain that real quick for anybody that hasn't watched the Mortis arc and stuff, like I had a friend at work today say, like, he saw a few seasons of Clone Wars, never saw the Mortis stuff, so he felt like he was missing something there, and I just want to like to kind of reiterate what I told him. So, because I said you're not really missing anything, okay? What you're missing, what he was missing at least. I explained to him that there are the father, the daughter, and the son, and to break it down even more, there was this arc on the Clone Wars, 3 episodes, where they kind of had this shared force vision. It was Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, and Anakin, where they were on Mortis, and they interacted with these characters, the daughter, the son, and the father. And the son was kind of hinting to Anakin about his fall to the dark side and all that kind of stuff. It was a really great episode. But really, that's all they've appeared in canonically, right? Is that they appeared on the Jedi Temple in Lothal in Rebels, which is where the entrance to the world between worlds was. And then they appear in these statues here. So really, anything that people are like, this thing is exactly happening, they're basing it more off of legends, or which is the pre-Disney canon, or they're just making up their own stuff to try to like have a theory about what these people stand for and what they mean. So basically the father was like the balance of the force, the daughter was the light side of the force, and the son was the dark side of the force. And that's pretty much all there is to know about them. And then people just kind of lose their mind and are always, they've been theorizing about Mortis since it aired, right? So there's a lot of people hedging their bets that this is going to be a huge thing. But I wouldn't be shocked if it stays kind of more surface level where like maybe they're a little scared to go fully into Force God type, stuff.
It sounds a little bit like how they handled the world between worlds in the show.
Yeah,
Where
everybody thought it was going to be way more involved than it was, right?
Right, and everyone's trying to get multiverse into Star Wars and all that stuff. So, like, I understand that to a degree. I kind of want to know what they do with Shin. I'm very curious about what they do with Shin, and I was confused that there was this group of raiders on this planet. Where did that come from, and why was that not brought up at any point before this? That was really the thing that was scratching at me. But if she's like going to lead these raiders, I can get into that. But like, what else is on this planet that we don't know about?
Well, we did have the Raiders. Sabine fought them on her way to Ezra.
See, I just grouped them in with Thrawn stuff. I just group in like mentally. I grouped them in with their Thrawn stuff because they were trying to kill Sabine. So I was just like,
Oh no. Yeah,
so,
I think they mentioned there was Raiders out there or whatever when they were telling her to be careful or something. I don't know, something like
are
that.
the Raiders connected to the other galaxy, or are they just
No.
natives?
And that's kind of like the cool part, and what I'm interested to see with them. Like, are they like the, I don't want to say the Mandalorians of this planet, but like, is there like some big backstory with their group, and do they have this code that they live by? And like, I'm very interested to flesh them out more if that's the route they go. They could very easily just also end up being cannon fodder group of the week, just kind
Yeah.
of the ones that Shin uses to have an army. But I hope not, because they are, they look really cool and stuff. It would be like kind of cool to see how living beings, I mean, we already kind of saw it with Ezra and the turtles, but just how living beings have been surviving on this what, for all intents and purposes, looks like a desolate planet that's basically nothing but like religious temples and like things like that. Way out here in the middle of nowhere. So
yeah, like no civilization.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
crops, no like. There's like, how do you survive? Like, you know.
Yeah, they are natives. They speak the same language as the turtles, the language of Noti, Noti. So
And they better not eat the turtles.
no, I think they might. I don't know, but I think with
No.
Ahsoka watching over them, they'll be fine. Yeah, so they're just natives, and I'm assuming, like, I saw some people questioning, why would Shin be going to these people? Why wouldn't she go to Thrawn? And I think it kind of goes back to what I said last week. Would your master abandon you? You failed to kill Sabine and Ezra. Are you going to go back to Thrawn, who does not care about you at all? No. I'm sorry, you don't. So what I assume is she's finding her calling. She's kind of getting her do-over. I don't know where she's going to end up. Is she going to end up being still more evil and kind of lead them as like a ruler? Or is she going to just be like this figurehead for them that they respect and you know, what is her plan with them? Maybe she wants to have them to go after the characters like Sabine and Ahsoka, or maybe she wants to go after Baylan, right? That was the one person that ever cared about her. And I don't know. I think that is very interesting. I kind of like her just, lighting the lightsaber and kind of showing it. To me, that's like a dominating move of, here I am,
Yes.
I will lead you, follow me.
It was a great moment. And I think the orange lightsaber is perfect for her because I don't think she's got much evil in her heart, but she's got a lot of things that are going to lead her to the dark side. She's got resentment. She's going to have a lot of anger with Baylan and frustration, clouded judgment because she was following somebody that wasn't really taking her on a path that was for her. She had nothing to do with the greater calling that Baylan was talking about. So I think she's got a lot of stuff that's going to lead her to the dark side. But I've seen enough evidence in the show to go, they don't want to go full evil with her. They just don't want to do it. So I think she's perfect with the orange lightsaber anti-hero role. That's what I think.
I agree. And I could even like sort of see it end up being a thing where like they all kind of end up coming to terms, I guess, with Ahsoka and all them would be the way to put it. So to where, maybe things are looking bleak in our galaxy, and Thrawn is laying waste to everything, and all these things that we see in Mando season 4, hopefully. And then here comes Ahsoka with the cavalry. You know what I mean? She's got Shin and Sabine and all these raiders, and we don't know what's happening with Baylan, but like it could be sort of that's like the turning point of the tides in this war that's coming with Thrawn. So there's a lot of, we say all that to say that there's a lot of ways they could go with that.
Ways, lots for Shin.
Ways that range in sophistication and scope and all that good stuff.
Nice.
And then we kind of have Ahsoka say like, let's let it go, right? To Sabine. Are we thinking she's talking about just like the Thrawn stuff altogether? Because some people are upset that she was so active about trying to get Thrawn, and then now she's like, let it go. But
was she time to move on?
Yeah, I kind of think it's kind of more of a, look, we're stuck here, right? I mean, there's no way for us to potentially get off of here right now. So they know Ezra got back. Ezra can tell them that they were left behind. Like there's nothing to worry about right now. I think she's like, we're exactly where we need to be. That's what she says. And I'm thinking she says that, I believe she said it after she saw the Morai. I think there is something there that she's like, okay, this place might hold more significance than I originally thought. And I think she's going to want to kind of explore that. She knows it's probably going to take them a while but it's not like the New Republic can't build this hyperspace ring, right? Because they were stealing it from the Star Destroyers that were in their lots.
Yeah.
So they can get more hyperspace stuff and build a new one. It might just take a bit.
Yeah.
There was a split second when Sabine is looking off into the distance, and she's looking at that bright light coming down, and I was like, Purgils? There was a split second where I was like, she hear Purgils? Is she sensing Purgils? And I'm kind of glad they didn't do it because it would have kind of cheapened the ending of the show. But I had a hunch they were going to do it. So I'm glad they didn't. But
I'm glad they didn't too. It would have essentially like thrown it would have been a sledgehammer to the whole like foundation of the show, because the whole thing was based on like how hard it is to get to hyperspace and everything, and then they just happened to hitch a ride on whales like so conveniently. That would have definitely dampened it for sure.
I think they could eventually, because that we hear that they're supposed to travel back there at some point, but they just noped out of there because of the mines, right? They're not going to immediately come back. And what do you think she saw then? What do you think? Maybe she saw a glimpse of Anakin, Sabine, because she was kind of staring like, what, and then we do see Anakin, Force Ghosts and stuff. So like, what do you think she saw? Or
I don't think
I
she
don't know.
saw it. I think she felt it. I think she.
Oh, okay.
I think she felt it. I think she felt it. I don't think she saw it. I don't think she can see it. But I think it's cool that she felt it. So that's in my head what's going on.
I'm thinking nobody saw it, right? I do think that that was for us to see the Force Ghost. Is what I kind of got.
And if that's the last you see of Hayden Christensen, put it in there. Why not? It's great.
Yeah. And all y'all stay out of my damn TikTok comments telling me otherwise. But yeah, like my processing of it was a combination of what you both just said. I don't think he was seen by either of them, but I think Sabine felt it enough to know that like, that's interesting. I feel something weird, but she's not strong enough with the Force yet to know. And I think Ahsoka knew exactly what it was. She just didn't see it. So like, I think she very much knew that it was Anakin kind of putting the proverbial hand on her shoulder and being like, now is your time to complete this circle, this cycle that, we've all been through in this family that you're a part of, the Force family, as I like to put it. You know what I mean? The lineage of from Ahsoka to Anakin to Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon. Now Sabine is kind of part of that, and it's the next step of the cycle. So I think it was very much just her getting the confirmation she needed that she's finally on the path she needs to be on.
Awesome. Anything else before we wrap it up?
I just had one thought about Ezra.
Sure.
And we were thinking about Ezra maybe would finish her training or take over as kind of the master. And I'm so glad, because of everything we just talked about, that they didn't go in that route. And I think the scene with Hu Yang kind of led us away from that in the first place. So I thought that it was really well crafted as a story. And I thought good writing leaves those possibilities where you think that could happen, but then you understand why it didn't. So I thought they did a very good job with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree.
He's going to train Jason, right? I think that makes more sense than, that's Kanan's kid. That's, I think that makes more sense than Ahsoka taking Jason on or whatever. So I think that's a real possibility.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me one bit. Actually, like, now that you say that, it was just not one of those things that had popped into my head, but I would be more surprised if it didn't happen at this point. Like, maybe they kind of get their own little series down the line. Probably, I'd imagine that would be something that came after the movie and all this stuff they're building up towards now, but I could totally see that. Just, I guess while we're kind of wrapping a bow on this thing once and for all, I guess just it would be smart to, each kind of give one last, what what you thought of it, what it meant to you, whatever. And right now, I know like this stuff has to marinate and stuff like that, and it's got to take time. But where you guys would rank it amongst your favorite Star Wars, period?
Oh, this is so hard.
Not just Disney Plus, but period.
I'll go first. Yeah, go ahead. I
was going to say
I'll follow your example.
Gotcha. I'll start. This was if I would say it was a complete rebirth for Star Wars, even though it was completely laden with the Star Wars kind of I guess like aesthetic tropes, whatever you want to call it. It very much felt like the beginning of the new era of Star Wars for me. It was perfect. In the entire 8 episodes, there was one episode that I had any complaint about at all. And the complaints I had were pretty minor, and I still had fun with it. The episode last week. It was every single week felt like a community thing. Everybody, like, besides from, again, the people we talked about before who were just, they won't like anything. It felt the most together the Star Wars fandom has been in a very long time. The most communal it has in a long time. It's been awesome. I hesitate to even call this a show. I think it was more an experience, and it is my favorite Star Wars project. Over episode 1 right now. Again, we'll see a year from now if I have that answer. But right now, I feel good in saying that it is my favorite Star Wars.
So, overall, really enjoyed the show. I think that this is one of the best Star Wars Disney Plus shows. I also think it's probably one of the best Disney Plus shows. I felt like it looked very good cinematically. I think the music was really great by the Kiners, Kevin Kiner. They also had just like it wasn't like a long movie divvied into parts. Like I felt like each episode was actually an episode. And it felt like a continuation of one of my favorite projects, which is Rebels, right? Like I really enjoyed Rebels more than I thought I would. I like it better than Clone Wars because I always liked having, instead of Clone Wars where they'd be like, here's 3 Jar Jar episodes, here's 3 R2 and C-3PO episodes, and then here's 3 Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka episodes. It's like we were with our Rebel crew. We followed them through all 4 seasons, and it really helped the character development. So then seeing them make the leap to live action was really fulfilling. And I think they translate it really well to live action. So I really dug this a lot. I like exploring a new galaxy. I like the lore that they're building up with this new planet. Like this is kind of what I've been asking for. I think one of the first podcasts I did on here was right after Rise of Skywalker, and it was my friend Logan and I kind of talking about what do we want to see. I wanted to start seeing a brand new time frame, brand new adventures, show me characters that are, people I don't know, right? And while that's not the case with this, I feel like we're kind of getting that brand new time frame by just exploring a whole new galaxy. Which is not like, oh, we're at Tatooine again. Oh, we're hitting the same notes that you want to hit all the time. Mm-hmm. I kind of got that with High Republic, and I'm getting it now with this. And I do hope someday we're going to be getting it with if that movie goes through, right? The Mangold, 25,000 years ago, Dawn of the Jedi. I want that kind of stuff because Star Wars, I think the universe itself is such a huge opportunity. But we kind of, like I said, like last week or 2 weeks ago, we keep going back to between 3 and 4 every time, right? And I'm like, let's move on from that. I kind of want to move on from the Skywalker saga timeline. And that's why I'm so excited about the Rey one. Okay, great. You killed off all the main characters. Let's go forward and start expanding the universe again. Let's move forward. I want to start seeing, or jump even 500 years in the future. I want to start seeing different things. I don't want to see stormtroopers every week. I don't want to see TIE fighters every week. I want something brand new. And I know that's scary for some, and that's why they keep going back to that stuff, right? Because they know the nostalgia will hit. But this show kind of gave me bits of nostalgia, but also bits of brand new stuff. And I think that is what is so exciting. I love when we get new planets. I love when we get new, ideas. So that has been what has really driven me to like this show so much. I would probably rank it as my favorite Disney Plus Star Wars show right now. Quality wise, I still think Andor probably knocked it out of the park when you're talking about production values. But that's easier for Andor. They're not traveling to new galaxies. They're not doing all that stuff. They're focused on the real people in the galaxy. So it's a lot easier to film that type of stuff and make it look really cinematic. It's like Breaking Bad and Breaking Bad's not worried about traveling to the next galaxy. I would watch that though. But
Mr. Wyatt, where'd we go? Shut up,
He
Jesse.
can't keep getting away
we're in a
with
brand new
it.
galaxy. Say my name. But so then we're overall Star Wars wise, I find that much harder to peg down where this is, especially right now. For me, I think the films usually trump any of the TV shows. So just because they're usually telling a much bigger story. Now, this one did tell a hell of a big story in this, 8 episodes. But overall, project-wise, I don't know if I can tell you, but TV show-wise, I think this might be my favorite as it currently stands. It's definitely the one I'll probably revisit more often.
All right, so I guess it's my turn. I think
follow that.
I don't think this is a fair answer. And I want to start with what I'm looking for with Star Wars before I get into it, because Jordan got a little idea bubble about it. I think this show really sparked my interest in Star Wars to a point where, I've been like, oh, I should watch Clone Wars, I should watch Rebels before this, and I should catch up on all this stuff, and because I've always kind of been interested but not quite attached to it. So, and I've always watched the movies, and I've watched most of them multiple times. So I'm a casual Star Wars fan. But what I'm looking for is for something new, like Jordan just said, with Rey continuing after the sequel trilogy, and a new era that becomes my Star Wars right after I got into the franchise a reborn way. And that's what I'm looking forward to. So my favorite thing is going to be Ahsoka, simply because I had a blast with you guys talking about it. I don't think I would have gotten into any of the stuff to this extent if we weren't doing the show. And the show was really fun. And I had a lot of zip zap pew pew, but it also had a lot. I feel like it was a mix of Kenobi's vibe with Andor's vibe. I think there was some stuff in there that kind of got everything, because there was some heavy stuff in this. There was some heavy stuff. So I will say, and I will say this is Ahsoka's my favorite. And then I think it's Rogue One and The Last Jedi for me. Would be my top three. And it's hard to put Ahsoka above a film. I also really love A New Hope. So you can't, A New Hope is almost a perfect film, especially when Luke is looking out into the stars, and the
twin sons.
Yeah, it's a really awesome thing, and he's just so bored, and he goes on the hero's journey, and do 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 do. It's perfect. So, and that's I wasn't a child when it came out, but I was a child when I had the VHS. So, you know, I'll go with Ahsoka number one, but it's a difficult answer because there's so many different ways I could go with it.
That's fair. Well, yeah, it's been a great, about 6 or 7 weeks here with you guys, and all the folks out there who've been listening to us on podcast and YouTube, the folks who joined us last night for the live stream. Like I said, man, it was an event, and I'm glad we all got to do it.
Yeah, it was great. And Chris, just to kind of add to what you were saying, I think it's best that you didn't watch anything before this, because like if you were just trying to rush through those things and they feel like homework, it's not going to be enjoyable. At least this way you got the experience of the characters, and now you're like, oh, if I want more, I can go watch more.
I'm literally waiting for that time when I got nothing going on
Right.
and I need something. I'm bored. I'm waiting for that time when I know I'm going to be able to binge it, because, one of the things with me with TV is it fits in when it fits in. When I have an appointment TV, like something that comes on a weekly basis, that's easy for me to keep up with. But when it's just like, hey, it's all there, you're like, oh crap.
Yeah.
I'll get to it. I promise.
All right, so that'll wrap us up here. Thank you all for watching and joining us. You can reach us at podawakens on all your social medias. That includes TikTok, Ron. But you can also follow Ron on TikTok as well, which the same handle of his Twitter account, which is in the bio below.
Jedi at Jedi Genasi, Genasi, for anybody who's listening on non-visual means.
I'm going to make an account that says at Jedi Geonosis. That way it's really close, and then people confuse us, and it's just a hard time for them to find us.
No one will ever know it's me.
I am going to be on another Star Wars podcast, Rambling Star Wars Fan. I guessed on that we talked about the Ewok films, which you can watch on Disney Plus. Have you seen any of those, Ron?
I have not. They actually sound super interesting.
Yeah, jump in.
Definitely. Yeah, dude, let me know. Give me the info on those. I want to check them out.
Yeah, Caravan of Courage is the first one. It aired on ABC in 1984, and then in 1985 was the better one, the Battle for Endor, which starred Wilford Brimley as well. So, if you
as an Ewok,
no. He plays an old man.
Just a bunch of tiny Ewoks, and then just Wilford Brimley
dressed up as an Ewok. Signature mustache still intact.
Yeah, the
and that premiered in 1985 on ABC, and I was on there with Ken Bishop. We talked about, all about it. There's ways that you can kind of retroactively fit these in canon if you want. So it was a lot of fun. I kind of talked about how you could do that. Also, coming up, next episode for this, I'm recording that soon. I've been working on it for months. My friend and I are finally going to get to it. It is Logan. He's been on the pod before, but we've been working on this episode for months. I wanted to get it out before Ahsoka. I just slacked off, but it is a fun experiment of if Star Wars films were introduced today.
Ooh.
What would the post-credit scenes be at the end of each film? So we are adding our own post-credit scenes at the end of all the Star Wars films. You can add mid-credits, you can add post-credits, you can add whatever you want. It just can't contradict canon. So if you don't like Last Jedi, at the end of Force Awakens, it can't be like Luke holds onto his lightsaber and never lets go. Like, I'm saying? Like, it can't break the canon, but you can create your own scenes. You can shift a scene from another movie to a different thing, or you can introduce the TV shows, whatever you want to do. I think mine is almost finally finished, so I'm supposed to be filming that, recording that in the next couple weeks here to get that out. Fun idea I had randomly when I rewatched Return of the Jedi during the 40th. I went to the theaters, and I just made a joke like, oh, let's stick around for the mid-credit scene. And I'm like, what would you put here at the end of Return of the Jedi? And then my mind was racing, and I was coming up with ideas. So that should be
awesome
fun.
Concept, dude. I can't wait to check that out.
Yeah, and if anybody's listening that wants to send their ideas, go ahead and send your ideas of what they would be, and we can read them on air as well.
I will be. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. I'm always interested to see what people would how people would shift stuff.
Challenge accept.
Yeah, that sounded like Thrawn there. But
I was going for more Barney Stinson, so that's scary.
challenge accepted. Acceptable losses all around.
Acceptable challenge.
Premiering tomorrow is Loki on Disney Plus. I will be covering that over on our Marvel podcast, To the Infinity Saga and Beyond. My friend Casey McGeorge, who covered She-Hulk, he covered Secret Invasion, and he covered WandaVision with me, is going to be joining me for the journey of Loki season 2. I actually just binged season 1 again in one sitting, and it flows really well as a binge as well. But yeah, so I'll be covering those. That episode I'm going to try to get up Friday night as soon as possible, with the episodes dropping Thursday evening. They kind of took the Ahsoka approach of things. But yeah, so that's what I've got coming down the pike for us here. Do you guys have anything you want to plug? I know I just probably talked forever.
He's a busy man. No, I think you got it. Like I said, follow me over on TikTok at Jedi Genasi, JediGenasi. I do most of my Star Wars posting over there, but also on Twitter with that same handle. And I'm really looking for a lot of new people to kind of, chop up with, network with, just talk about this nerdy galaxy far, far away and beyond now that we all love. So drop me a follow. I follow back.
Nice. All right, you can follow me 2 places. You can follow me at FootballMan58 on Twitter. You get the Ravens stuff and most of my general personality. You get some DC stuff sneaking in there on that account. And then you have at Multiversal Omni, it's Chris Talks Comics. And I like to talk.
Stupid name, Multiversal.
Inside joke, but
yeah, I was gonna say inside joke for people.
It's funny.
He's not just coming at Chris, right?
I'm not. Right.
After 8 weeks of just all great times together, man, what a stupid Twitter name you have.
But Chris also appears,
with a thumbs up, I give the middle finger.
Chris also appears with me on Ellis World's a DC Fan podcast.
Yep.
Ron's made appearances on there where we talk DC Comics, DC films, all that good stuff. So make sure you follow us over there if you are a Star Wars fan that also really likes DC Comics and DC films. But yeah, so thank you all for watching and listening along. We will be doing more content as we go along, but just thank you all for joining us on this Ahsoka journey, and we will catch you next time.